Amen. Jeremy, I can see you at the top of my screen anyway. So if you want to get started and just kind of tell us where you are, church, and then just a little bit of background. I know you're senior pastor there, but go ahead and share with us.
Yeah. Senior pastor at Pinker Baptist Church, started January 1st. Still kind of transitioning into the church. I have 3 children, 6, 3, and 6 months. And Stacy Davis on here is my children's ministry.
Okay. Good deal. Good deal. Jonathan.
My name is Jonathan Graves. I'm at Central Baptist in Paris. This will be my 6th year at Central Baptist, been involved in student ministry for 20. I currently serve as associate pastor of families and students. So basically I'm in charge from nursery all the way through college ministries. So that's where this has been really fun for me.
Yeah. Now, Jonathan, while you're speaking, can you tell us kind of what you've been doing to stay connected to your students during this time?
Absolutely. I'm sure, as you all know, with all this trying to figure it all out, we get one question answered. There's many more that come up with that. With my students, the children's been a little bit more difficult for me. I really haven't had a chance to jump on board with that one yet. I've got my leaders, my adult leaders, kind of working with me on that. So we're actually not kind of getting in next week. We're going to be sitting down and really trying to get in some more in depth with our children's ministry, just try to figure out how we can connect with them a little easier. Really with the children's, we've been doing packets. I create a packet every week that we see, and one that also goes along with the sermon and things with the church service on Sundays. But at the same time, the packets they go along with the sermon, a bunch of different games and different things like that are all going through that. Plus, just a lot of phone calls. I'm always every day I'm checking on parents and just seeing how the kids are doing, what they need. I found out real quick Zoom with children did not work very well, at least for us. So we kind of drifted away from that. But so I mean, a lot of right now it's just a lot of phone calls, checking on parents, encouraging them to stay involved, because now all of a sudden they are the ones that's the lead evangelists in the home. So for their kids. So I'm trying to encourage the parents a lot. Student ministry, we have actually got going with small groups. I know that we got these groups of 10 in a room with social distancing, but we are not meeting in rooms at all. We are meeting outside. And so that allows me a little bit more freedom with that. We meet at some of our parents' houses and different things like that, but it's all outside. It's something we don't do anything inside. So we're kind of slowly getting that incorporated in. Our student ministry goes from 6th grade through 12th grade. So some of them are with grade levels, some are age levels. Some of them will have our group come together. Sometimes it's one bigger group, but we may exceed that 10, but we got to make sure the social distancing and everything is in place for that. So, I mean, that's kind of what we're looking at right now. We're trying to get them together as much as we can, because as you all know, the longer this has went, the harder it is for students to be engaged. The Zoom lasted for us for about a month, and then after that first month, I started losing momentum, and the kids were not being a part of it. It went from like 30 kids to I think 3 or 4 the last few weeks, and I finally in the last 2 weeks I kind of gave up the Zoom, and we started working on small groups when they started opening up that way. So that's a good way of doing it. My kids are loving it. A lot of them are starting to get back. The thing I'm running into now, I'm finding now that I probably got about 4 or 5 new families that have already wanting to get their kids involved. They're just, all this has put a fear in them. And now all of a sudden I'm praying that, they're starting to seek God in this. So we're starting to get a few new students involved through this because of this. And so that's kind of the area we're looking at. I'm trying to take advantage of the small groups with that. Actually, I'm finding it easier to communicate and a little easier to do devotions with and things like that, and get them to talk in smaller groups right now. So that's working pretty well for us. It's a lot of work. I have to meet more than just your average Wednesdays and Sundays, but at the same time, I've got my adult leaders involved with that. So we've got about 6 or 8 different small groups that are going on throughout the week, just with the students, in which I'm checking in with every one of them. So that's kind of the direction we're going right now. It's just allowing us to be able to keep social distancing. We're not using the building whatsoever. It's all done outside. So if it's raining and something, I usually tell them, hey, we're canceling for today. We'll schedule it another day. I use Remind a lot. So we make sure we try to get it in one way or another. Get as much face-to-face as we can.
Requires a lot of flexibility for sure.
Yeah.
Dan.
Well, I'm Dan Russell, and I'm not in student ministry or children's ministry, but I am the lead ambassador for the network, and just sitting in today, see what everybody's doing and how you're keeping connected. So I'm all ears, so I'm listening.
Miss Tiffany.
I am at Mount Freedom over there in Wilmore, and I have been going to that church for since college, since the last year in college. But I started working there the past 4 or 5 years. I'm the leader of the children's ministry. So we do nursery, or I'm in charge of nursery all the way through 5th grade. And then there's my husband actually is the youth leader, and he does middle and high school. Sorry, my kids are right here too.
Okay.
A couple ways that I've been keeping in touch with my kids. I have written letters to each of my kids. And if there's multiple in a family, they each got their own individual one. And I gave them little like activity things or stickers or whatever, just to have fun. I've been recording videos for them every Sunday and every Wednesday. We do the Gospel Project on Sunday mornings. And so I've been using that curriculum and adapting it to an online platform. And then I'm going through God's attributes on Wednesdays with them. But yeah.
Good.
And I've seen a couple of them on Zoom with parents and things like that, but like Jonathan said,
Good deal.
it's hit or miss.
Jennifer.
I'm Jennifer Schultz, and I'm at Cedar Grove Baptist Church in Stamping Ground, Kentucky. I have been a member there since I was saved and baptized there when I was 7. And I've been the children's ministry director there for 9 years now. As far as connecting with kids, I've been used a lot of different things. I've been recording videos and doing, lessons Wednesdays and Sundays, and trying to give them some kind of activity to do with their family to go along with that, and encouraging them to send me pictures of that to, kind of help them feel like we're doing this together. I've been encouraging them to memorize scripture and send me pictures, and I post those on our Cedar Kids Facebook page. I've sent postcards, calling families. I do one Zoom session each week with my 3rd through 5th graders. It's kind of a Bible skills class, and I do that on Wednesday nights, and they're really enjoying that. I didn't start that at first, but after I saw that this was going to be an extended thing, I started doing that with them, and it's worked out well. I've had even a couple of activities where I've delivered kits to the families at their houses, like for example, around Easter time, we did a lesson on communion, and for my families that had saved children, I delivered kind of a communion kit for them to have communion as a family to their houses. At Easter, I egged all their houses with, things that had scripture in it to tell the Easter story. We are getting ready to have a virtual Bible school the 22nd through the 26th, so I've been working really hard on that. That's definitely been a new challenge to think through how to make that work. And we will have, most of it will just be, pre-recorded videos. We've put kits together with all the supplies that they will need that they'll come and pick up, but they will have the option for a live Zoom meeting with a teacher that's, per grade level, to really kind of hit it home on their level and make sure they're getting it. So yeah, that's been doing a lot of different things to try to try to keep them connected. And as somebody else said, you know, it's really kind of been a cool thing to, you know, try to encourage parents to leave their children in ministry at home.
Yeah. Good deal. Eric.
I'm Eric Gillespie. I am children's pastor at Emmanuel Baptist Church in Lexington. I have actually also been overseeing our student ministry for the last year almost. So I've been kind of over K through 12 for the last 12 months. I've been there 11 years in June. So in a couple weeks, I'll hit 11 years. And we've seen growth over the last few years, which has been really cool. To keep connected, it's been much easier with students than it has been with kids. We've done the postcard things, the phone calls to families. We're recording messages every week for kids. We have also started, as we're beginning Reentry, trying to not do anything printed, but trying to attach everything to our app so that kids can download things and interact on the app. Just another one of those little safety precautions that we're trying to do. For students, we have been doing Zoom, still small groups. We're down probably 70% since we started. We will begin next Tuesday, kind of regathering with students. We will start outside, have about an hour of fun, hangout, food kind of thing. Again, being outside, like Jonathan said, the restrictions aren't quite as tough, and they actually loosen up again on the 15th. So you can do some things like cornhole and some things like that outdoors. But we're also going to begin next Tuesday worship with our students on Tuesday nights. We can fit the number of students in our student room and still stay under that 33% capacity. We'll just have to be creative in how we set up the chairs. So that's kind of where we've been, what we're doing. And to echo Jonathan, I have had a couple of families come in during this time, which has been really cool to see. I've been able to FaceTime some kids making decisions to follow Christ, averaging a couple a month doing that since the middle of March. So it's really cool to see God working during this time, even though we feel like it's not normal.
Yeah. Bill Bolt.
Hey, Chris. Hey, guys.
Hey, Bill.
I'm Bill. I'm from Southern Heights Baptist Church in Lexington, in my 8th year here. We've got several things going on. We got a children's leadership ministry team that's been really active and staying on top of things. And I have two on staff, 2 youth leaders that have been keeping in touch with our youth and working with them. But we do Wednesday night, we're doing the RA program, and it's gone to in-person meetings now outside. The GA program is still on Zoom on Wednesday nights, and then Mission Friends are doing by Zoom on Sunday nights at 5 o'clock. So we're keeping in touch with the kids that way. Of course, like everybody else, we had to abandon VBS. We're looking into, we've got the material for, and we've got a lady setting up. We're going to be doing backyard Bible clubs this summer through different homes all across the city. So we're getting that in preparation right now. Shannon's working on that for us. Paul Llewellyn's on the screen here with us. He's on the children's leadership team, and Paul teaches the RA program. But we've been keeping in touch with the kids through Zoom, personal phone calls and things. We've also, the youth, that we were out, of course, we didn't do in-person worship for a long time. 2 weeks ago, Wednesday night, we came back on Wednesday evenings with parking lot services on Wednesday night. and the youth all came, and Kevin and Fred had more youth come on that Wednesday night than they've ever had in their group. We had almost 20 kids in the backyard coming because the kids are just wanting to get out. So we had new kids come. We were able to reach some new kids and put them in the program and get them on the technology with Kevin and Fred. They do a Bible studies over with their phones, and they keep in touch with FaceTime and this type of thing. So that's how we're basically keeping up with things. We opened up our services last Sunday, and we had 61 that showed up. So I thought that was pretty good. Hopefully we'll get more next Sunday, but we've got room now for more. So, but we're staying live with FM radio and live on camera, but the children. The other thing we're doing, children's sermon has been pretty unique. We got two young people in our church that are getting ready to get married, and they're doing all the children's sermons via video, and they put together a really cute a video type thing for the kids. And we play that on FaceTime on Facebook, and then now we play it at the sanctuary. Instead of having children's sermons, we have this video come on, and it's really entertaining and cute and a good Bible lesson for the kids. So we're just struggling along like everybody else, just trying to keep up and hopefully get back in touch with everybody. And it's been quite a ride. I've been 40 years in ministry, and I ain't never worked this hard in my life trying to keep up with everything. But God is good. Everything's moving along smoothly, and I appreciate all of our team of people that are working, and everybody's pitching in, and I have not gotten any complaints. I told them, if you're going to complain, I'm going to send you over to Africa and be in some of those persecuted churches. So don't complain about a few inconveniences here. So I appreciate listening to all you guys and what you're doing too. I'm picking up some ideas from you guys as well. So God bless you all in your ministry.
Thanks, Bill. Let's see, is it Terry? Is that right?
Hey, no, it's Teray. Rhymes with hooray. Hooray, Teray. I'm at Porter. I've been there 5 days.
Oh, wow.
I came from a church in Mississippi where I had been there as children's for 11 years. And so my husband's from Kentucky, so we moved back. And so I've been at Porter 5 days. I work with Wayne Noble. He's going to do preschool. I do kids and women. And so in the 5 days I've been here, yesterday was really sweet. Wayne and I and the 5th grade leaders, we hand delivered to all of our 5th graders packages with the Foundations Bible study in it, devotion book, and some gifts, and went to each of their houses and delivered them. And it was a sweet, sweet time with them. So far, I've just been meeting with leaders for several weeks just on Zoom from Mississippi to Lexington and getting to know them. So I got to know them when I got here. I already knew them when I got here. And I work with Nick Sandifer. So I'm excited about what's going to happen. So far, most of our teachers have been doing their classes on Facebook, and then they invite the parents to the group. Like our 1st grade leaders teaching like a 10-minute gospel project and her lesson for 1st graders, and then the parents tune into it. And I know that we've all been keeping up with the leaders.
Well, welcome to the area.
Thank you.
Yeah, kind of a challenging time to start a new position in them.
Yeah, it really is. I'm kind of surprised. Like, I've been at Pine Lake Church in Mississippi, which has 5 multi-sites, and so we were running a really big children's ministry there. And coming here at a time like this is just, I just feel like God is doing something new and cool, and I'm excited about being a part of it.
Amen. Let's see, Paul.
Yes, good morning, everybody. My name's Paul Llewellyn. I'm with Southern Heights Baptist Church here in Lexington. Bill Bolt, our pastor, I mean, he about covered everything that I could think of. But now 2 weeks ago, we had the RA group meet in the parson's backyard with a little campfire. And, you know, it's been a trying time. We just started the RAGA program in March, and our our start date was March 18th, and of course everything shut down the week before. So it has been difficult, but through Zoom and Facebook and now we're being able to meet in person outdoors. Now, if the weather permitting, and then if it's not permitting, we've got room indoors. Because right now we've got a small group of kids, 1st through 5th grade in the Royal Ambassador program. But our children's leadership team is working hard to get our children back active. And of course, our 2 youth leaders, they're doing a marvelous job, staying in touch with the youth there. And the parents all seem to interact with their children. Zoom is hard with young kids because when they're at home, they're either wanting to eat a snack or, it's hard for them to keep them focused on Zoom. But, we're looking forward to getting them back in person and having these Royal Ambassador and Girls in Action classes. But, thank the good Lord that, we're all still healthy and able to do this. So, I have to give all the glory to God for everything He's doing for this. So with that, I thank everybody for what they're doing also.
Thanks, Paul.
Yes, sir.
Scott.
Hi, everybody. My name's Scott Collins. I'm at Gano Baptist Church in Georgetown. I've been going to Gano for 18 years, and I've been the children's minister there for about 7 now. But we've done, we started a YouTube channel. We call it Gano Kids, and we try to do a lesson on there every week or so. It's going okay. It's hard, we unfortunately, when you have to depend on the parents to do stuff, sometimes the kids don't. So we've done some stuff at Easter. We did an Easter egg hunt. We went to church and we hid a bunch of eggs, and then we gave people times when they could go. And so they were allowed to find so many eggs, and some of them had verses that the kids learned, and then they recorded them and sent them to me, and then we sent them something in the mail. We found that kids love to get mail, and so that's something that I don't even think they knew they could get mail until this started. So that's something I think they've really enjoyed. Our student ministries have started meeting. They've met a couple of times, and they've done that outside both times. Quite a few kids. I think we had 15 the first night, so they've got a social distance. And then we're hoping next Sunday to try to do something in terms of with the kids. And so we have a pretty big meeting area down in the basement at our church. So we're going to spread those chairs out and try to get them to understand. I think the hardest thing is going to be that you have to stay away from each other, and they haven't seen each other in a long time. I think that's going to be the most difficult thing. But we haven't really tried Zoom because I honestly never thought we would be able to do it. It's just something I don't think that people would have got on board with. But we've done mail, we've done some FaceTime with phone calls, and that's what we've been doing, and it's going pretty well. But we're really looking forward to get the kids back and to be around them.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing.
Thanks, Scott. Cindy.
Unmute. Hi, I'm Cindy Hoover, and I'm at Anchor Baptist with Carl Peters. And Dalton, I don't know that Dalton's on here. Dalton Peters is their youth minister, and I am in charge of the children's ministry, and I just started in February, so I'm sort of new. And what we've been doing is I kind of wrapped up Awana digitally. We had been doing Awana, at church, and then in March we shut that down, and I just did like a digital Facebook presentation for Awana. And then I had like an Awana store, like at the end of the Awana, usually they have things that they can buy with their points that they earn, etc. So I went in the church basement, and there was a tub of toys. And so really, I kind of did a digital where if they could send me their scripture, if they could recite their scripture and their parents could send me that, then I would tell them how many points, and I'd give them a choice of their toys, and I took some toys to them. But really the digital, we didn't have that many participate. Some, it was good. And, the way I look at it, if one kid says a Bible verse, that's worth it. But we have a small group right now of children. I'll just say we're a growing children's ministry. I'll put it that way. So we don't have a whole lot of families anyway with young ones. And I'm like some of these others. I'm from nursery to 5th grade is my role. But we're trying to grow, but I've stopped the digital Awana except for right now I'm kind of doing once a week, I kind of offer the parents, I've been buying some gift cards and kind of giving some Bible trivia questions out so that the parents can feel involved, seeing who can win a gift card for, whatever. I think I did a McDonald's and a Starbucks, etc. I think I did a DoorDash. But just to try to keep the parents involved. So it's like one of the other people said, I think the challenge really is the kids aren't necessarily in charge of themselves. The parents are. And you got to in order to keep your children, they don't know to set themselves an alarm for a Zoom meeting.
Yeah.
So if the parents aren't on it, So, and I've done like some of these others, some phone calls and, try to stay in touch, try to ask for prayer requests when I call. And I'm just starting to get to know people, and this happens. So sometimes I know what their voice sounds like, and I might not know what they look like. And there's a few that don't speak English very well. And I don't know that I don't really know the connections. So I'm just trying to build connections digitally and by the phone. And that's a little tricky.
Yeah.
So we're just, and as far as our church goes, we've been doing live worship since Pentecost. I think that was the 31st of May. And we have been doing all the guidelines, 2 services. Carl and his teams have done a wonderful job of moving the chairs in the sanctuary and, all that kind of stuff. So I feel like it's really safe, as far as safe can be for worship, which is a blessing. But really, there's not a lot of people that have returned to worship yet, because we have a lot of elderly that just don't feel comfortable, or they're at risk in some way medically. So that's all right. But we haven't done any children live things at all. We're just going to not do Bible school, which breaks my heart. But like I say, the workers who do our Bible school, they're usually over 60. And I don't know that they would, they wouldn't have wanted to come in and do that. And so, we're struggling.
Thanks, Cindy. Eric?
I'm Eric McCrickard with the Mission Church of Lexington. I'm one of 2 pastors in the student ministry, which is much like your all's middle school through high school. We've tried social media, maintaining contact with our kids. Randall Combs, the lead student pastor, has actually gone in the very beginnings of being healthy at home, would do home visits, but just kind of wave or try and speak or something to them from the driveway, just to keep in their minds that we're still here and we're available for them. We did not try Zoom, and I say that just because we just didn't think the kids would have any real want to do it, especially coming out of NTI, where they spend so much time in teleconference with their teachers all day, every week, or at least up until school ended. So we just reached out via text, social media, and when we could, just a actual person-to-person visit, but social distanced and in as safe as way as possible. We are resuming getting together. In fact, we're going to have the students meet at Jacobson Park this afternoon, and we're going to do a little round. We're having the devotional, and then we'll do a round of disc golf, just to get them out and active and start to kind of rekindle some of these friendships that have undoubtedly been put on hold for the last 2.5, 3 months. We're also, I think Brother Bill had mentioned this, that they're doing in their groups, we're going to start looking at doing kind of like a sponsorship. Somebody in the church, once a week, once a month, would maybe step up and sponsor youth night at their home. They feed them, and then we do some kind of a devotional or a lesson, and then we have an activity. If somebody's got a pool, then we have a pool party if that's allowed at the time. If it's a volleyball net, we string up a volleyball net and play volleyball, or basketball if they have a basketball court or something like that. But that kind of gets the congregation a little bit more interactive with the student ministry. And it gives them an opportunity to help and to build some relationships with some of these younger kids that will ultimately make up our young adults. But that's about where we're at with middle school and high schoolers. And that's it.
All right. And then my friend Sandra. How you doing, Sandra?
Hey there, Chris. It's really good to see you. I miss you. I'm doing well. Thanks for asking. Well, I am Sandra, and I am the kids minister at the Mission Church of Lexington. We're a church plant, and we've just, we're in about 2.5 years. And so I would say during this time of where we've had to not have church, I have probably worked harder because we go in. I created a face for our kids. Nursery through 5th grade. I created a Facebook page, and we have been faithful to go in there. We do Kids Explore the Bible curriculum. And so on Sundays at 11:30, I go in there and I do a lesson. We do songs and just things that go with that curriculum. And usually that's about 20 minutes. I'll be honest and say that many times there's no one that hops on. That's okay, because I'm still doing what I feel I need to be doing with that. And I know they come and look later. Sometimes it's just not a convenient time. Then on Tuesdays, I hop in for the preschool and I do fun time, story time. Sometimes we do, for the preschool, sometimes we do, I'll read a book. And like last week, it was about firefighters. Sometimes I will do hand play, for the toddlers, finger motions like the Itsy Bitsy Spider. And sometimes, it's just a fun time. And that's usually about 15 minutes. I work another part-time job. And so I come home and do that on my lunch break and then run back to work. Then on Wednesdays, another one of our leaders, she does Activate Mission Kids. And she has 2 small children, and they get on and they just have she does a lesson. Right now they're going through Fruits of the Spirit. And so we're in our the Facebook page 3 times a week. And then other times I might pop in just for a minute and I post different things for them throughout the week. But you just can't reach kids digitally, especially, younger kids. They're just not on there enough because they're young. But I also, for Easter, we got together and we just had a packet of Easter eggs and different things, because I hadn't seen the kids for several weeks. And I just went and we left them on the door. Just gift bag of goodies on the door of each family. And if there were more than one child, there were more than one packets. And I've sent the lessons out, not every week, but, just send the activity sheets, a color sheet, maybe a little craft of some kind. And so I've kind of kept in touch that way. But I will also say that one thing I have learned through this is that there is a deficit on my part with knowing these kids as well as I should, having all the updated information for parents, for their phone numbers, emails, this sort of thing. So I have got, I've learned some things through this. But so that's kind of what we've done through these weeks of not being able to meet live. We are starting kids ministry back up on the first week of July. We're kind of in a little struggle because our classrooms are very small. Like one class is about 120 square foot. The other class is about 110 square foot. So that doesn't lend for many children. So trying to work that out to where you only have 4 kids, maybe 5, plus 2 leaders, it's really tight. And we haven't worked out all of the specifics. So that's just where, Pastor Donovan and I are kind of walking through that as we go along. And so, Chris, I probably need some direction there.
Thanks, Sandra. Let's see. Make sure I get everybody. Stacy?
Actually, it's Scott. Sorry. I don't know how Stacy's thing got on there when I logged in. But anyway, Stacy and I both are the children's ministers at Pinkard Baptist Church in Versailles with Jeremy. And we've been doing this about 4 years. We've been members close to the 15 years, I guess, been going there. As far as keeping in touch with everyone, all the children, we've communicated through Facebook quite a bit. We've also created a weekly children's church video using the Lifeway curriculum, kind of made it viable to put on to YouTube, and had our own little channel, private YouTube stuff there, so the children can actually utilize that and see it every week. Currently, we're doing a mission project for truck drivers, since they are essential workers as well, or as we see them as well, ones that generally have to get everything there and to and back and forth, and some people don't really think about that a lot. So, and we're doing a lot of stuff through delivery now, so we're getting the children to collect items and stuff like that, and they're delivering them either to the church or to our house, and keeping kind of that distancing thing where we'll just pick it up off the porch, and then we'll put the packets together and then distribute those out for them to the various truck drivers throughout our church and also elsewhere. Some of the truck drivers are going to take those packages and to other people that they know, and kind of so they can minister out through that way as well. Mother's Day, we did an online tribute to mothers. Father's Day, really don't know if we're going to do it that way or not. Kind of depends on if we can get face-to-face things set up by that point in time. We'll do them in church. VBS, we've been thinking about various ways to do that. Still a little bit unsure exactly how we're going to do ours, but we've our youngest daughter she's attended a couple of other virtual or digital VBSs. So we've been kind of doing that with her at the same time, of course, but also learning kind of how everybody else is doing their stuff as well. Trying to do a little research on our own that way. We've for like Easter time, we created activity packets and bags of activities that we've had and utilized throughout time at church and had leftovers. So we put a lot of stuff together that way and left it on the porch of the church, and invited parents through Facebook and other social means to come and pick that up for their children, so they could actually have something to do during this time that they're away. But something that had that was church God related, not just other type of activities, and had meaning behind them. And we've also issued out a survey, a Google form survey about coming back, and we're looking at some of that data as far as what we've gotten back responses wise to see how best maybe fit for those children and parents that are part of our children's ministry, trying to come back, see how many would be willing to come back, how many are going to wait a while, various things like that, trying to get that together so we can go forward and do things with them and still stay in touch at the same time. that's kind of where we're at the moment. I mean, I've probably forgotten something, but that's the majority of things we've been doing right now.
Thanks, Scott. Jennifer?
Hey, I'm Jennifer Peel from Cornerstone Baptist with Jason Price and Chris Keener there. It has been a crazy time in our life. Once we started going online, we started doing online children's videos with Bible stories, prayer activities every Sunday. And each Sunday morning, I deliver a pack of supplies that they would need for the activities that we're going to do throughout the week. So actually this week was Egypt. So we delivered hard air dry clay and some other activities that to go along with the curriculum. And we've been doing that. Oh goodness, we've been doing that for a while. And we're going to continue that until school actually starts, just in case that something crazy happens and we have to shut back down or whatever. So we've been doing that. So Sunday they get a Bible story and prayer. Monday we post the memory verse and encourage people to video and send it back to us. On Wednesday we post one activity that they have the supplies provided, and on Thursday we do either a snack activity or we another hands-on activity or a game that the families can play to review the Bible story of the week. And then I have a great lady that works with me, and she's been doing fun Friday experiments, and each experiment connects back to the gospel. So she's been doing that every Friday on our Facebook page. So we've just been uploading, and I don't know if anybody knows this, on your Facebook pages you can schedule posts ahead of time, which is a time saver and a half. Yeah. I have learned that through this time. And then on Sunday mornings now we are doing drive-in service. So we have provided chalk, and our pastors, before they start preaching, are challenging the kids and the youth to draw something that goes along with our sermon, or a Bible verse that they like or they hear, or song verses throughout the parking lot, which has been pretty cool. And then we take pictures of them and we post them on our Facebook page. And then we also, Sunday, I put together an activity bag that pertains to the sermon, and just of, crowns and a little bit of a snack or a juice box. I think last week I did like squirt bottles. They were like 50 cents each because it was really hot outside. And so they've been using that each week. I'm trying to think of other things. We do have VBS on the schedule to do for August 2nd. We are still in limbo with doing that. Most of our volunteers are on board with doing that. I don't know how August is going to look. So we've been kind of discussing that of what we're going to do. The great thing is, like, we are not near our capacity with children's ministry and youth as well. So we can spread out. We have more room that we can spread out if need be. It's just getting those extra volunteers for extra classes that we don't know for sure. But I mean, the online stuff, like the each day that we post, it's like a virtual VBS. I'm actually using VBS curriculum. It's called the Jesus Expedition right now. And it was like 2005. But it's really neat. We're going to all different types of places and environments throughout the earth. And then when we are done with that in about 3 weeks, we're going to start a back to basic questions that kids have. Just because we have been going through cover to cover and gospel project, I wanted to make sure that kids, we kind of review some of those basic questions that we may have missed, or they're new and they didn't get with us. So we're using Team Kid in that, and also Answers in Genesis for our preschool and younger. We're kind of connecting them to, and making a journal for them to go through with us with activities each week, and as well as the delivery. We have about, it was 47 kids that I deliver to each week. Usually Saturday night or Sunday morning, they wake up to a bag on their porch, which I think they are really loving. I'm getting really good feedback on that. The Facebook videos have gotten phenomenal views. And then we are uploading all those videos also to our YouTube channel. Just in case if they miss it, I don't want like you have to scroll through Facebook to find it again. So they can just go through that YouTube link and find it real quick. So that's what we've been up to.
Good deal. Thanks, Jennifer. I'm going to put up I'm going to screen share the regathering highlight guidelines from the KBC. Can everyone see that? Ooh. Everybody go. Can you hear me?
No.
Can everyone see the screen? Okay. Not going to go through all of this, just want to highlight some things. So, and then we'll highlight some things, and then I want to get a few of you who I've asked to sort of give us some thoughts on what you're planning. One thing that I've noticed is on this first page here, June 15th, just quickly approaching, is when you can see the child care and age-graded ministries begin. But that last sentence there, however, the governor's office has posted it's going to allow groups of 50 or more beginning June 29th. So depending on your size, obviously following social distancing and things like that, churches may consider waiting until the 29th to have more folks together. Now it's 10, a maximum of 10, but you may be able to get more if you can practice the social distancing if you wait a couple of weeks. So, and I don't know what y'all's plans are at your churches exactly for when you're going to regather, but that may be something to think about. So we'll scroll on down. Again, we're just going to kind of highlight some things. So like that addresses that question, when can we start? You kind of want to be thinking about, and you already are, I'm sure, planning for when you're going to start and what that may look like. Planning well, it mentions having a planning team, your children's ministry team or your student ministry team or deacons or whatever it may be. It's important to get a team together to have ideas and pray together and see how you may safely reopen or re-enter. So enlisting volunteers and be in communication. And if you didn't get the copy of this for some reason, again, it is on the KBC website, but if you will put your email in the chat, I'll also send it to you if for some reason you didn't get it. So it has some questions there to consider. Registration, that's obviously going to be important. It's always important, but especially as they're trying to track and the tracing and things like that to know who was where and who they were in contact with. And a good time to ask simple health questions as well. Does the child have a fever? They've been sick? And it mentions there, of course, provide masks to anyone needing one. If your church is requiring masks and for some reason the kid forgot it, that would be a good opportunity to provide that. While in the classroom, let's talk again about the social distancing and spacing your chairs out and what that may look like in each room. Potentially, I know yesterday at our church, we were over there yesterday measuring all of our rooms and figuring out how we're going to configure the chairs when we do go back. So something you're probably going to need to do if you haven't already is think about cleaning the rooms, obviously, but also how are we going to measure them and space things out to meet that maximum occupancy, which is the next section there. If you read there about the larger space, it talks about moving a group or multiple groups into a larger space. If you have a bigger group, they may need to switch rooms potentially or go to a gym or a fellowship hall where they can meet with that number of people and still spread out. I did like the ideas of some of you mentioned of meeting outside. Of course, we know that sometimes that can be dependent on weather, but that is definitely a good option. Cleaning the rooms in between. If you meet for some reason during the week, and then you have someone coming in the next day, you obviously want to clean in between meetings. Let's see. Coffee and snacks right now, of course, they're recommending no shared. You do coffee and snacks or, excuse me, multiple handling of items. Obviously, they're frowning on that. And of course, it can be difficult to do the social distancing because we tend to want to gather and talk, which is natural. Obviously, that would be a hindrance to our social distancing. Wearing masks, of course, someone mentioned earlier, that's a big, in some ways, a dividing factor, unfortunately, in our churches. And some churches are requiring it, some are not, some are recommending it. So you get a lot of different thoughts on that, but you can see there's some things to consider. How do we have any? Where do we get some? And how do we handle the whole mask situation? So you can see that there. Restrooms, of course, with kids, it's with adults and even students, I think it's easy to kind of have them sort of clean up after themselves and sanitize after themselves and things like that. But with kids, it seems like that's more of a struggle. So they talk about there in that third, number 3 there, the preferred method you may have to have a volunteer to go in after a kid and then clean up if they're not able to do that. So there's the guidelines on that. They break it up into regathering children's ministry. And again, a lot of this is with the 6 feet social distancing, how you're going to set the room up to, and this says a cap attendance at 10 for the kids. So you do want to think about that. Keep them together throughout the duration of the gathering. Have a centralized registration and drop off. Avoid those common touch in high traffic areas. Staying healthy, communicate with the families. Don't bring your kid to do things if they're sick. And so some churches may decide to do temperature checks as well. Also a plan for, what happens if a kid ends up being sick, having a plan for that. Sorry, my computer's doing a little something crazy right now. Here we go. Designate a space to safely monitor the child and then reunite them with their family. Make sure you have their contact information so you can contact them and say, hey, they're feeling sick, and things that you would normally do anyway, but obviously with COVID, it's even more important. Staying clean, reminding them to wash their hands, remove all toys that can't be easily cleaned and disinfected. Cloth toys should be removed. And y'all can see all these. I thought this was pretty good, equipping volunteers. Some of you have mentioned that you've been in contact with your volunteers, and some of them may or may not come back right away, and some of them, depending on their age and their health, may not feel comfortable and maybe shouldn't come back right away, depending on the situation. So it's important to keep your volunteers encouraged, but also communicate with them and figure out kind of this is what our plan is. How you feeling about that? How you feeling about coming back? Because you want to have a plan for coming back with enough volunteers, because it's going to take a lot of hands to sort of do all these things as well. So you see that section about caring well. It's conversations with the parents. Again, that somebody mentioned doing a survey, and I thought that was a good idea to sort of feel where your people are at. Continue online, Zoom and other things. We've heard several mention that it's a little harder to do Zoom with children, but with students it works pretty well. So it may not be an option for in some cases for our children's ministry, but it could be an option for the student ministry. So again, if you didn't get a copy of that, put your email in the chat, and I'll get you a copy of it again. But it is on the KBC website too. So kind of what I wanted to do now that we sort of just kind of walk through those, I know rather quickly, but so hopefully you've had a chance to look at them, is Jennifer, can you start us off and tell us about kind of what Cedar Grove's plan is as you know it now, or if you're still kind of developing it?
Sure. So previous to getting the KBC guidelines, I had reached out and just kind of, I'd put together, looked at the CDC guidelines and the, Kentucky guidelines for childcare. And I had also been sent, a document from Lifeway and another state's requirements, and it kind of compiled what I thought that looked like for us. And then after getting the KBC, I was pleasantly surprised to see that they were pretty similar. So my pastor has been, pretty anxious to try to get back to children's ministry and just as much of a normal aspect as we can. He originally kept mentioning that June 15th date, but now has kind of quit mentioning it. But I've just kind of told him, whenever you decide that, you want us to try to be back, I'm going to need several weeks planning before we can do that. I think there's so many things to think through, and a lot of it's outlined really well in the KBC, recommendations, but just removing unnecessary furniture, going through in those, especially those preschool rooms, and taking out any toys that cannot be easily cleaned, having a plan for if something goes in a kid's mouth and immediately goes in a bin to be cleaned so that it's not reused by someone else, those kinds of things. I think the biggest challenge with kids is the social distancing aspect. And a lot of the documents even say you can't guarantee social distancing with kids, but we should still try to encourage it and take all the steps that we can to make it possible. So spacing is a big issue for us, because even with the 10, even with that 10, some of our classes might go over that from time to time. And, I would hate to have to be someone that says, you either have to have a plan to add another class or tell someone, sorry, you're too late, or do the pre-registration so that they have to register before they come as much as possible. But, the spacing limits us even a lot more than that in our classrooms. And we have a few larger spaces that we can put some classes in, but not enough to accommodate all our classes. So the outside venue is, a great option for that. But again, that's, your weather permitting. And another thing we've had to think through is how our hallways are not very wide. So we've had to think about that traffic and how to have kind of a one-way in, one-way out kind of system, and moving our check-in from where it is located now to a spot where parents could do that, and then we'd have a volunteer take the kids back to the class as much as possible. So, honestly, for me, we don't have a start date. I would like to wait and see what schools decide to do. I feel like what we decide to do should line up, and, it doesn't make sense for us to be having kids right on top of each other if they don't think that's safe for schools yet. Our district is supposed to hopefully announce something the week of July 6th. That would give us a better idea what they plan to do for schools. And it's a lot to think about. It's a completely different scenario having kids with their families in a sanctuary 6 feet apart and putting them in a classroom together. And I don't know about if any of you have had this, but we've had a little bit of division within our church as far as how seriously people take all these guidelines. And some just think, just forget it. Let's just, do whatever. And then others, are don't feel comfortable. So, there's a little bit of a discrepancy there, and it's hard to balance. But I feel like if we're involving people's kids and taking them in and, and having class, we need to be able to ensure that we are following the guidelines the way they're laid out. Whether it's your personal belief that we need to be doing that or not, So, it's a lot to think about. Is there anything specific you wanted me to speak to?
No, that's good, Jennifer. Let's see. Jonathan, what are you all planning at Central?
Well, right now we're not planning the use of the building. We're not doing anything. If we're going to do anything, it's going to be outside the building besides for Sunday morning service. Reason why is, one, once you open up the building, allowing all these different places to be used, all of it's got to be cleaned thoroughly. So it makes it much more difficult, especially the manpower with that. We have a lot of people that are choosing not to come right now. They're preferring to stick with the Facebook Live or the radio right now because, one, they don't like wearing masks, or they're just, the fear factor is still a big part in that. So we're trying to, if we do anything, we're kind of got it set. We got the services going now. Next time it will be, let's start working on children's and the different, we kind of got to set in an order of what we're kind of looking like, what ministries we're going to start opening up and what we're going to try to do. For me, I mean, to echo the same thing as what Jennifer said, I would not, just because the state says you can open up at this particular time, does not mean we have to. Just like for me in my nursery, we got a lot of things we got to do. There's a lot of change. There's some changes we're making because it's the time to do those, make those changes now. But at the same time, there's a lot of different things we have to do. And right now, just for our nursery, we have set a goal, if you want to call it that way, end of July right now, because we want to make sure that everything's in place, everybody's comfortable with opening it back up. At the same time, we're trying to get a feel for, all right, who's coming back, who's not. We've had a lot of younger parents with kids that said they're going to wait to see what the schools are going to do, so they probably won't be back until the schools. They'll keep doing what they're doing with online stuff. So we're running into that quite a bit. Student ministry is a little different. Those kids, at least mine, they're anxious to get back together. So we're trying to provide, it's about relationships for them. They want to see people. They're tired of Zoom. They've been through the schools for months with Zoom. So they're really anxious to kind of get back together and be able to talk face to face and things like that. So we're working on that, trying to, like I said, small groups are helping out a ton with that. I'm not planning on getting too crazy, even when they open it up to groups of 50 or less. We'll probably still stick with the small groups just for, and plus I communicate a ton with the parents, saying if you're not comfortable with your child coming, stay home. It's okay. We miss you, but we stay home. You need to do it the best that you feel is more safe for your family. But for the most part, most of my families, I have not had that real big of an issue as long as we're doing small groups. So right now for us, we're not really opening the building up, but just for Sunday mornings, and we're very much in control of that. We're used to having our church always open where anybody can walk in. Now the doors stay locked. And if they can't, somebody needs to come in and talk to the pastor, they call and kind of set an appointment right now, just so we can kind of control traffic inside the building, because we don't want to make it even more work on everybody else of trying. And something I wanted to ask for some of you, and I'm just kind of curious. I know for like my nursery right now, I know for a fact that we have had several that were on our rotation for our nursery kind of use this as a get out of jail free card, and have kind of stepped away, said, well, just take me off the list. I prefer not to, just step away from helping out with that ministry now. I'm tired, or whatever the reason is. Are you all seeing kind of the same thing in your ministries? Are you seeing some just kind of jumping ship and everything? I'm just curious.
Anybody speak on that?
I haven't surveyed my volunteers yet, but I imagine there will be some, some that don't feel comfortable coming back because of COVID, but unfortunately, yeah, sometimes anything like this is excused.
And that's something for, exactly. And that's something for us. We're trying to make sure that we have the people in place before we open back up. I don't want to jump into a situation which can cause issues. I would recommend anybody, don't try to be that church that tries to jump real quick and all of a sudden you a news station sitting out in front of your building is plastered all over TV and everything else.
Yeah, the big thing I'm hearing across the spectrum is you need to make sure you got your volunteers. You're exactly right. Some people are reluctant to come back, or maybe won't come back. So you need to make sure you got your volunteers in place before you do anything else. Yeah.
think that's important of having that team together to put those things together and call those volunteers. Don't just assume everybody's coming back.
And I think one other thing too we need to do, and that's for all ministries, once we can get back together, whenever that may be, we need to make it a big deal, especially for students and children and stuff, and make it a big deal. For us, when we can get back together as a full group, we're blessed to have a 27-acre farm out on separate from our church that we got a big pavilion built on and things like that. We're going to have a big cookout. We're going to have games like you've never seen. We're going to have all kinds of stuff planned for the kids and the students once we can get back together with that and with the families. So we're wanting to try to make it a big deal once we get back together, whenever that time comes. I don't know what that'll look like at that point in time, but we're going to try to make it as big of a deal as us getting back together as a church family, as we can with that, to show, we miss you guys. We're glad you're back. We want you to be a part. So that's something else we're going to be we're working on now. Like I said, we don't have a date, of course, because we don't know. But at the same time, with things opening up, we're just trying to prepare a little bit ahead of time to try to make this as, I wouldn't say call normal, because I don't think there is really a normal right now, but just trying to make it as much as a celebration as we can as a church getting back together as a whole. So that's what we're kind of doing right now. We're not really opening the building up that much, just for the fact of we don't want to take a chance. Our building's chopped up, a bunch of small rooms, small hallways. So, everything's been touched, sat on, has to be clean. So we're trying to avoid from doing that as well as much as we can, but encouraging as much online stuff as we can. But like I said, student ministry, we're doing small group stuff. We actually got meeting outside of different places. One around a fire pit at my house. And something else I know I don't know how many, there's not a whole lot of student ministers. Most of them are children's pastors, but for like student ministry, something I do that we're doing, which I've always done, I have a student leadership team, and these are students I have asked to meet with me once a week. It's a discipleship group. And these are students that I pour into, that we work through the gospel, that are teaching them to be leaders of the students that they're in. So one of the things I've done with them, I've already started meeting with them for the past few weeks, is now I'm telling them to be mentors, because that's kind of what they're doing. So they are actually assigned students, 2 or 3 students, each one of them, and their job is to go and call them themselves, call and check on them, see how they're doing, how you pray for them. And what I'm seeing with that is now we're starting to engage students. Like, oh, we're getting ready to get back now. I'm getting more phone calls. Through this also, I've seen more students with Bible studies. And I get a chance to do a lot of FaceTime with one-on-one Bible studies through FaceTime, as well as small groups through Zoom with actual Bible studies with 2 or 3 students. So one of the things I would, and for especially on student ministry, I know children's ministry is a different bird in itself, but if you got students that are leaders, that are looked at as leaders in your group, take advantage of that. Try to encourage them, use them, because I'm finding more and more other students are going to listen to them where they listen to the youth pastor, for the most part. So you're trying to get them involved. So, Trial's way of doing it, it may work for children. I'm not sure. I have not tried that with the children because we have an Awana program. So now we're trying to figure that out. But because during the summer is me basically coming up with everything, extracurricular activities, all that stuff through the summertime. And then when school starts is when our Awanas program kicks in through the year, in which they keep that hopping. That team is amazing. But so for the most part, that's kind of what we're looking at. We're not trying to rush nothing, but at the same time, when we can get open, we want to make it as big deal of it as we can for that.
Good deal. Eric, what is a manual kind of thinking about with children, and because you do children and student, right? So you can speak into both of those.
Well, students, like I said, we'll be beginning Tuesday, and we're going to do worship. We're going to do outdoor games and fun stuff, and it is our attempt to try to re-engage some of the students that have been missing that community. We feel like we can do that and stay under the 33% worship requirement, and then being outside. So we're beginning that this week. We're doing it on a different night than we're not doing Sundays. We're doing Tuesday nights because of cleaning. It makes it easier to clean. We have gotten some foggers, and you can fog rooms and you can clean a room real quick. It does take about 30 minutes to dry in between, but you can fog the room. We can do our whole worship center with 3 or 4 of those in about 30 minutes. Gets on every surface underneath. So if you're looking for a quick way to clean and be able to get on top, underneath, kind of all the surfaces, that would be what I would look into. For kids, we don't have a definite date to come back yet. We are looking at probably end of July, 1st of August. We do want to know what schools are doing first, because I do agree most parents are kind of looking at that to see what's going to be accepted and not in our culture. But we've tried to think through everything from when the parents walk in until they pick up their kids. So we do digital check-in. We have iPads. We have about 10 iPads that families come check into. So we're thinking through, what does that look like? Okay, so we're going to try to put some portable hand washing stations there for people as they come in. We're going to have volunteers, gloved volunteers at the check-in stations, so that no family touches the check-in. Even if we were to write them, I think we would probably do the volunteer only does the writing for the check-in, and then have hand sanitizer stations as they leave. And some of it is overkill, and we know that. But everything that we've read and everybody that we've talked to says the perception is more important than the functionality. And so if you can help your families see that you're taking every precaution necessary, they're going to be more likely to leave their children with you. And so that kind of, as our check-in, we're going to look at only one person from the family checking in, and only one person from the family dropping and picking up their kids. So if you drop them off, you have to pick them up. Now we have a lot of families that will, send an older sibling, or a dad will pick one up, and mom will pick up another, and we're going to have to try to eliminate that as much as possible. We're going to have hand sanitizer in each room, and we're moving to the touchless ones. And again, you think of that as an expense, but if you buy the product, most companies will give you the dispensers. And we figure we're going to buy the product anyway, so they'll give us the dispensers. So we're moving to all touchless in the bathrooms and in the classrooms, sanitizers, soaps, things like that. We are going to ask our volunteers to wear masks. I know that is one of those things that is a hot point. We have had for our church services, we started last Sunday with meeting in person. We had some volunteers tell us that they weren't going to serve because of that. And so know that, and going into it, that you will have some volunteers that will not serve because of that. And so we're also trying to figure out how many kids we can have. We share space with Lexington Christian Academy, so the rooms are already packed with stuff. So how many kids can I get in a room and keep them 6 feet apart? I don't even know that I can get to the 10 in some of those spaces. And then furniture. A lot of our furniture is 2 kids sitting beside each other, right side by side. So we're going to have to look at how to do that as well. We've kind of got a list. Of course, we're not doing snacks. Everything they say is try to keep kids contained in one room. Don't cross contaminate rooms with different people. So if a kid checks into a room, then they need to stay in that room all day. And for those of us that have multiple services, that becomes an issue because kids just need to move. And then how do you differentiate the teaching enough that they don't get bored? Right now, we have a Sunday school hour, a worship hour. We're not sure what worship will look like because you are moving rooms, or if we can do that even. We're also this is one of those things that's not that we don't get to make the decision on, but we're going to push for, at least beginning with only offering kids activities for 1 hour instead of the multiple services. I don't know if we'll get that, but that would help us in the cleaning, the staffing, we can also ask volunteers to go to one service and then come help us, and maybe we can pick up some more teams. We are looking at, of course, ways in and ways out. Our building's fairly choppy. And for us then to create enough kids classes, we may not be able to do adult Bible studies, just because I'll have to use some of the rooms that adults are meeting in now to accommodate the total number of kids. So there are some different things. We are looking at, for students especially, waivers for things if we were to do. We're looking toward the end of July, doing our own missions camp, and then having families sign waivers for us to be able to transport them together with masks and things like that. We're hoping toward the end of July that the restrictions open a little more. So we are, and as we open, we are looking at some of the places, some of the groups that meet on our campus. We're going to ask them not to meet because of cleaning. We have a single moms thing. We have AA that meets daily. And then how can we do that? So that's kind of what we would add. Let's see, but yeah, I'm trying to take, like I said, just trying to take as many precautions as we can, even if it may feel like overkill, so that parents feel comfortable.
Yeah.
I was just going to tag in on one thing you said as far as like the, multiple services and having in one room. We kind of have the same thing with right now we have 2 services, but in a normal life, we have Sunday school and then church, and have, opportunities for kids in both of those. But I think right now, we're going to have to pick one, because that's just, especially with them having to stay in one room, it's too long for those kids to be in one room without moving around. So I think my ideal, if we move to one service before, we start children's ministry, would be to offer the Sunday school hour and then have kids worship with their parents during the service. Either that, or if we're at 2 services still without a Sunday school hour, at that point, just have children's services during one of those, because it's also not fair for me to ask my volunteers to miss the worship service every week. Usually that portion of our children's ministry is done on a rotation, and that's just too many different volunteers to train in this to make it consistent all the time. So I think my thought is it would be much easier and more consistent if we do it during a Sunday school hour where they have the same teacher every week, and then they worship with their parents.
Yeah, I think that what I'm hearing and what I've been reading is the need for volunteers. And if you have 10 in a group and 2 of them have to be adults, that means you're going to have a lot more adults. And then with some saying, I'm not coming back, or I'm going to wait a while before I do that ministry that's already in your ministry, it sounds like your volunteer is going to be one of your biggest issues that you guys have in starting back up your children's ministries.
Yeah.
Well, I know for us, just already we decided, usually we will have children's church that they get the pastor will dismiss them before he starts preaching, and we'll have something put together for the kids. We have decided just to, as of right now, just kind of cancel that because one's going to get kids all over the place with that. And I hated it. I hate doing that. But at the same time, the space is also the issue. Trying to fit all the kids with the volunteers, with the all in to keep it to the levels. There's no way of doing that. So what we're encouraging is right now is, which we're running 2 services, an 8 o'clock service and a 10:45 service. If you bring your child, we'll try to have as much like the little packets and stuff for the kids that's sitting there. But I've got a little sermon notes for kids I make up each time to where if they pay attention, they can answer things for the kids, draw pictures, different things that go along with the sermon. I mean, just things like that. Because I think right now, not knowing the volunteers, so like I said, for my children's church, I've had a rotation for that to where they teach once every 3 months, had all kinds of volunteers to help in that rotation. Now I'm down to 4 volunteers with our children's church. Well, I can't ask the same people to do it every single month, week in, week out. So I think it's going to be some of the issues we're going to run into with that. We're trying right now, my team, we're trying to figure out how we're going to recruit volunteers because we're anticipating several just kind of stepping away from that ministry, or we don't know when they're going to come back. We've had a lot tell us that they're not planning on coming back till school starts. So I'm not sure what the best plan is for that. I don't know. We're still trying to figure that out, especially when we're not seeing a full capacity of members in the church and the congregation. So if anybody has suggestions, feel free, shoot me an email, anything like that. I would love to know what you're all doing with that, when it comes to recruiting volunteers.
I'd be curious, do any of you normally, a normal year, which this is anything but during a normal year, do you take summers off as far as your children's student ministries don't have a lot going on in the summer, or you pretty much go year round? Pretty much go year round?
Year round.
We take a lot of the summer off for most normal week-to-week program. We add things like VBS and family nights and different thing, camp. But the week-to-week program, we still have Sundays, but our Sunday night, Wednesday night, those kind of go away in the summer.
Yeah.
We have taken off at times. It kind of depends on what's going on year to year, but we have sometimes in the past, yes.
Yeah.
We usually combine. I usually start having my students work with the children through the summer with activities. We have things planned every week, different crazy. All kids love messy games, so I'll do some things to allow students to get involved with the children. Having playing some goofy messy games like shaving cream wiffle ball, where you play wiffle ball and the balls are filled up with shaving cream. When you hit them, shaving cream goes all over the place, and then the next thing you know, it's just a big free-for-all shaving cream fight. Everybody's getting covered in shaving cream. Kids are loving it, having fun. But of course, we have to make sure what kind of shaving cream we use. But that's kind of what we do. It's not. I would say it's not something that is. It's more organized chaos than it is actual organized or programs or anything like that. So that's kind of what we do during the summer.
Yeah. Well, when I said that we took off sometimes, we always kept with the Sundays services and stuff for the children, but we would sometimes take off the Wednesday night children's service because they were, involved in other things, vacations. A lot of them were gone. So we wound up with one kid there sometimes. So sometimes like we would just do the Wednesday night. We would always keep on the Sundays though.
Yeah. Just curious. Does anyone have any particular questions you want to ask either Eric or Jonathan or Jennifer or Cindy? Looks like she has a question. Go ahead,
Yeah, I was
Cindy.
trying to get my mic on. I just had a question about what I read in this document. Let me see if I can find the page.
Okay.
It was.
We'll screen share it again so you guys can see
Well, no,
it.
I've got it pulled up. I'm just trying to
Okay.
find where I had it. It had to do with the rooms and the square footage. It said, shoot. Well, anyway, I can't remember where it was in the document, but it said something like, make sure that you're following the square footage guidelines, but it doesn't tell you what those guidelines are. So do you know, I mean, I saw we don't want more than 10 in a room,
Right.
but what is it talking about the square footage?
But I think it goes along with when you're talking about 10 in the room, it's with the 6 foot distance, social distancing that's involved with that. So that's going to change a lot of things on your square footage, depending on the size of the room. You got what they're saying is, especially with kids from different households, you've got to have 6 foot distancing still in play with that.
Right.
So
it wasn't like the footage of the room.
Yeah. So depending on the size of the room, I mean, for me, I've had to go through and actually measure a lot of the rooms.
Yeah.
Just to see, and I'll take 6 foot stick, I'll take some tape and just mark it, just to give me an idea if I can even. So a room that I may normally have 30 kids in on every normal time, I can get maybe 10 in the room. So it's going to differ a little bit with that.
Okay.
Yeah, the connection may be, you know, for preschool rooms, that there's already like just guidelines all the time as to square footage for how many preschool kids you can have in a room based on the square footage of the classroom. So that may be the other. I don't know the exact numbers on that off the top of my head. But.
Do you know where to find that? Like what document to find that?
I've not seen.
I think if you look, I'm sorry, my neighbors mowing their yard, but I know you can look up just like child care guidelines for the state of Kentucky and find the square footage per room of how many you're supposed to be able to have in a room on a normal basis.
I will do that. Thank you.
Good question, Cindy. Does anyone else have any specific questions we can try to help answer or help seek you an answer? Anything specific?
There he is. You're frozen, Chris.
Yeah, my internet's not good sometimes.
I am just curious because I know for me, from when I work with even my teenagers, most ones, I'm finding a lot of them have no idea what 6 foot is. Is everybody else having the same issue with mine?
Well, adults that way too.
That's what.
It's a good chance to teach math, Jonathan.
Yeah,
have them measure it out.
I tell them I'll hold your arms out and don't touch your ends of your fingers. But if you get within an inch from the end of your fingers, holding them out like this, I said you're 6 foot. So
and that's going back. A lot of that's going back how serious their parents are taking it or not taking it. I think that's a big issue. I even noticed that Emmanuel opened last Sunday. I'm preaching in a church on the Sunday. The church I'm preaching in is very much sensitive to the 6 foot and all the stuff. They really got it down well. It's a small church, so it's easy for them to do. But there were some people at Emmanuel that started, they'll come and pat you on the back and do some things. And, everybody's got their own views. Same way with a mask. I think in your all's ministry with children particularly, now youth you all can, with students you can do differently. With students particularly, I would encourage you to really keep your eyes and ears open on what your school system is doing. And then keep your eyes and ears open on what state guidelines are coming down. They're going to open up some more. It's 50% now for worship. And so we're seeing that opening up. It's going to go from 10 to 50 groups. The social distancing is going to stay. There's no question that 6 foot is going to be an issue. Yeah. But I would just say keep your eyes and ears open. I'd go ahead and plan everything I'm doing to reopen. Get all your stuff in place to be compliant. But you might want your date of reopening be a little flexible, and allow that to be something that you're working towards. If I was pastoring, I think that's where I would be with children's ministry and preschool and nursery. Is I would let that starting date be a little more flexible until I find out what's happening. And again, make sure I've got enough volunteers to cover it.
Thanks, Dan. Anyone else have a specific question? But if not, just make sure if you want a copy of that, of those guidelines, your emails in the chat. But also that can be a good way for me to be able to communicate with you if we want to plan another one of these down the line somewhere. I'll be able to send you the invite and things like that. So, and I'll share that with you if you like to do that. So make sure you do that. Any other thoughts? All right, well, let's close in prayer, because obviously this is a lot to take in, a lot of planning to do, and we need the Lord's wisdom and guidance as we walk through this and sort of plan. And that to me, there's just a tremendous burden. There's excitement about reopening, but there's a burden that you kind of sense of people trying to do it and do it safely, because we have children and kids entrusted to our care. And we want to make sure that they're being taken care of spiritually, but also physically. So there's a lot to take in. So let's be in prayer for that. So Eric, can you close us in prayer, brother?
Yes, sir. Father God, we just come to you right now, and we are so thankful that we get to serve you in your church. God, we are thankful that you have entrusted us with a ministry to reach people with your gospel, God, with your saving grace. God, as we look to reopen, God, as we look to figure out what it looks like to minister to the families of our communities, God, please give us wisdom. God, please give us guidance. God, please give us the knowledge that we need to keep our families and our children safe. God, give us the words to say as we interact with parents. God, give us the things that we need to do to make them feel safe. God, give us everything that can only come from you. God, we know that you have just a plan for us to reach more people with your gospel. And God, we know that when we rely on ourselves, we can mess those plans up. So God, give us your plan for your kids, for your children, for your students, God, in this community. God, thank you that we can come together and just share ideas and, God, be a team, because it is all about your church, God, not my ministry, not what I can do, not who I can reach, but how we can together impact the world with your name. So God, help us to make your name famous in all that we do. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thanks, everybody. And I'm going to include my email address in there as well. I'm doing that now. So if you need to contact me and see if there's anything we can do to help minister to you or be of service anyway, please contact me, and I'll put that in there now. It's the second one there. Sorry, I had a typo there in the first one, but you'll see that email there. So thanks for being on this call, and we'll be praying for you. And again, let us know if there's any way we can help. Okay?
All right, everybody have a good one.
God bless. Let's see. Yeah, I have to save this chat. Where does it save it to? Meeting save chat. I recorded the meeting, but I don't know where it goes. Never recorded one.
I don't know either. That's what I told Sandra. She texted me and said her phone was dying.
She texted me too.
Well, she meant to send it to you, and she sent it to you an accident. And then she later was like, "Oh wait." I said, "Well, he's recording it." I said, "He can probably send you that if we can figure out how to do that."
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I was thinking. You can't have more than 10 kids in a room, which isn't a problem for us really, but like they said, parents need to be aware up front that if there's more than 10, there's just going to be more than 10 because you can't just kick people out. But
It's tough. You hear that one church said they've already lost volunteers because they don't want to wear masks.
well, and you're going to lose volunteers, like he said, that people are just going to be like, I'm just not ready to. Some people aren't comfortable with trying to enforce it all, and I think that's kind of where I am. I'm like, am I comfortable enforcing all of this?
I don't know where that would have went.
Is it in your Zoom? I wonder if it went in a temporary file or something.
It asked me, do you want to put on a cloud? And I was like, I don't know what that is. So no.
Cloud would be a virtual, would not be on your computer.
Okay. That's why I said no, because I don't know what that is.
But like the one woman said, you really need, I mean, that's what I said last night. You kind of almost have to wait and see what the schools are doing and go from there. Why does that say June 31st? I just realized that says June 31st on that.
Well,
There's not a June 31st. Who made that calendar?
Since I'm so new, I'd like to be able. The chat's been really good. People really enjoyed it and got a lot out of it, which is good. In a Zoom meeting. Okay, I've got to try to find that because I'm supposed to send it to Derek.